Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am super excited to share with all of you my recommendations for the Sephora VIB sale. So this is one of my overall favorite sales of the year. As you guys know, I love Sephora. Most of the makeup I buy is from Sephora. And so being able to get 10 to 20% off the entire store is just such an amazing deal. In case you guys aren't familiar with how the sale works, so if you just sign up for a Beauty Insider account with Sephora, you automatically get 10% off your entire purchase as many times as you want. And then if you spent at least $350 in the past year, you have VIB status and you'll get 15% off. And then if you've spent at least $1,000 in the past year, you have Rouge status and you'll get 20% off. So depending on your status, this might or might not be a really awesome sale, but I do think that regardless of which level you have, this is a great time to pick out products that almost never go on sale and to stock up on skincare or other staples that you use a lot of. So in today's video, I'll first be running through some makeup recommendations, especially some new release makeup from the past year that I would recommend picking up in the sale. I know you guys like it when I put on the products for you, so I'll be doing this full face with those products. And then I'll be running through some of the holiday sets that I would recommend because I think the holiday sets are where you can get some of the best value during the sale. And so if you're interested in hearing about my recommendations for the Sephora VIB sale, then just stick around. So let's first start with foundation. So there are two foundations I'll be putting on my face today, the Dior Forever Skin Glow and the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Foundation. So let's first go in with the Dior Forever Skin Glow. I have this in shade 2N, which is a little bit light for me, but that's okay. We'll make it work today. If you guys saw my original video review of this, I compared it side by side with the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation, and those are both really great. I still like the NARS as well, but even though in that video I decided that I liked the NARS a little bit more, over time, with trying out both of these a lot more, I have actually found that the Dior has overall come out on top. So here you can see a light layer of the Dior. It has a really nice glow to the skin. It's not super high coverage with just one layer. This is maybe like a light to medium coverage. So I normally build it up with one more layer. So for me, what made this ultimately stand out more in comparison to the NARS is that I feel like it has a little bit more lasting power over the course of the day. It still looks really nice and perfected as the day wears on. Also, I really love the healthy sheen that it gives to my skin. And even though I don't really like the fragrance that's in this product, I prefer it to the smell of the NARS. The NARS basically doesn't really smell like it has any added fragrance, but the smell of the ingredients themselves is not super great. So I actually find the Dior a more pleasant experience overall to apply. And as you can see with the Dior on this side and nothing on this side, it's just so beautiful on the skin. Very nice and perfecting, doesn't look heavy at all, still really looks like your skin. Like you can still see some spots peeking through, but this whole side of my face just looks so much more healthy and perfected in comparison to this side. So I would highly recommend the Dior Forever Skin Glow. On the other side, I'm going in with the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin. I have this in shade 6. So this is more of my true skin tone. In the Dior, I have also tried it in 2.5, and I would say that 2.5 is my correct shade in the Dior. So with the Beautiful Skin, I originally tried this in a sample as well. You can see my first impressions in my review of the Charlotte Tilbury Cream Bronzer. And in that video, I was using a very small sample, so I actually couldn't get a very good sense of the formulation. Basically, I barely had enough product to even cover my face, let alone get a good sense of it. Also, I really like watching Morgan Turner's videos, and this foundation really didn't work out for her, and so for a while I wasn't that interested in trying it out again. But recently I've had several larger samples of this product and I've been using it a lot. And I actually really like how it looks. So here we have one layer of this. And in comparison to the Dior, I feel like you don't need as much of this Charlotte Tilbury product. It's a little bit thicker, and so you can see that even with one layer, you get a pretty decent amount of coverage, but it still looks very natural on the skin. I would say comparing these two, the Dior is definitely a little bit more luminous and perfecting. It gives you that sort of model appearance, whereas the Beautiful Skin is a little bit more like an everyday foundation, which looks like you don't really have much on your skin, but still adds some coverage and perfection. I find that both of these also wear really well throughout the day and play really well with other products. And so if you've been eyeing either of these, I would highly recommend them. Honestly, both of these are on my wish list as well. And the only thing holding me back is I bought like 5 foundations in the past few months. And so I feel like I really should not buy more. But in terms of looking at this whole year and all the foundations I've tried, these two are coming up pretty close to the top. Now, the other foundation that Sephora carries that also has been in the top of my list is the Kogan Do Aqua Foundation. So I picked this up from Kogan Do in Japan, but you can buy it also from Sephora. And I think the VIB sale is a really great time to check out this product, which very rarely goes on sale. This is for many a holy grail foundation, and I've been wearing it a lot recently and can definitely understand why. I have this in the shade 123, which is a tiny bit brightening for me, but overall works. And as you can see, this provides a beautiful luminous finish to the skin. The coverage when you first apply it is not actually that high, and so you can definitely build this up. But this has a very beautiful, natural, but perfecting finish on the skin. And so it doesn't really look like you have much product on, and the product feels like it's a pretty thin layer, but it basically has this beautiful veil-like effect. So I think you can see where it is there, and wherever the product is just looks a little bit blurred, looks very dewy and fresh. My only caveat with this product is that if you do want higher coverage, you will need to use a fair amount of this. I feel like whenever I use this, because it is quite liquidy, my sponge or my brush tends to absorb a lot of the product. And so you will go through this a lot faster than, say, the Beautiful Skin foundation, which you only need a pretty small amount for. So that's the only thing I don't love about this product, but overall it is really phenomenal and would highly recommend this or the Charlotte Tilbury or the Dior foundations. Now for the brows, if you're interested in a luxury brow product, I would highly recommend the Gucci Brow Pencil. So this is a really excellent brow pencil if you like that sort of powder brow effect. So not super precise, but really easy to apply and relatively natural on the skin. I have this in shade 4, which is a really nice cool toned brown. If you have black hair like me, you know that it's often hard to find browns that aren't super warm, and I think this definitely fits the bill. I also really enjoy the brow products from Kosas, so today I'll go in with their brow gel in shade medium brown. This is great if you want a bit of a bushy brow appearance to add some really nice volume to the brows while also taming them. For concealer, I'm honestly surprised to hear myself saying this, but I would highly recommend the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Concealer. So I feel like every time I review this product, my review goes up a little bit. The first time I reviewed it, I wasn't super impressed by it. I was comparing it with the Faux Filter Concealer from Huda Beauty, and this one was fine, but it didn't perform that well on blemishes or as a primer on the eyes. But since then, I've only been using this for under eye concealer, and this has quickly become my #1 under eye concealer. Basically, I've never experienced a concealer that is so hydrating yet pretty crease proof. So it still creases a tiny bit, but really way less than any other concealer I have tried on. I feel like whenever I wear this, I don't even have to set my under eyes with powder, which for me is extremely rare. Usually within a few seconds of applying concealer, it's like crease city under my eyes, and so I've been very impressed with this product. Also, the one thing I really didn't like about it when I first tried it is I could see some fine shimmer particles in it in certain lighting. And that still bothers me a little bit, but I have to say, because of those fine shimmer particles, it looks really good and brightening. I feel like it means you don't need as much coverage because there's a little bit of light that's reflected back that makes that area just look brighter. Like you can see, I only put a little bit of that product on my eyes today, but it looks just so much brighter under there. So if you're in the market for a brand new under eye concealer and you have any issues with darkness or dehydration under your eyes, I would highly, highly recommend this one. For blemishes though, I'm going to go in with my ABH concealer in shade 6. I also have this in the full size in shade 4, but I find for all over concealing, it's a little bit better for me to use the deeper shade. So the fact that I have this in a full size and a mini size should tell you that I really like this concealer. This was actually one of my top concealers for 2021. I think this is just a very nice, solid, versatile concealer. It's good for under eye, it's good for blemishes. It's basically something you can use for any concealing purposes. It's a pretty thick formula, so a little goes a long way. It definitely provides good coverage, but it's still relatively lightweight on the skin. And as you can see, it blends out super quickly and easily. Moving right along, let's get into cream bronzer. So by far, this is the #1 cream bronzer I would recommend to you. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Sun-Kissed Glow Bronzer. I have this in the shade medium. And basically, this is by far my favorite cream bronzer of all time. For context, I'm normally actually not much of a cream bronzer person. Like, I'll wear it on video just to do a full face of makeup, but on an everyday basis, I usually don't actually like cream bronzer very much. I find it kind of finicky to use. It depends on, the products I use for my base. And so typically I'm not a huge fan of it. But for me, this has been really a game-changing cream bronzer. It's so easy to blend into the skin. I feel like I don't even have to blend it. I just sort of tap it on with a brush and it blends itself. And I actually like this more than a lot of my powder bronzers because, as you can tell, there's just no issues of patchiness whatsoever. It's super easy to build up to whatever opacity you'd like. And it just leaves a really healthy sun-kissed effect to the skin. This formulation is just quite unique in that, unlike other cream bronzers, it's not super creamy. It's almost more like a cream to powder formula, so it has that slight dryness to it, such that you don't have to worry about it slipping and sliding over your face. You have the control that you would get with a powder, but you have the blendability and the natural appearance of a cream. For powder today, I'm going in with the Saie powder. This is their translucent setting powder. For me, I would say this is a like, not love. I would recommend this powder if you're someone who has pretty dry skin and who finds that often powders are a little bit unflattering on your skin as a result. This is overall a pretty luminous powder, and so it's not going to give your skin that really dry appearance, and it's also comparatively less drying than most setting powders. Now, what I'm not 100% sold on with this powder is if you do want that longevity, I feel like this doesn't set your face as much as most powders do in terms of really locking in any sort of oils or creasing over the course of the day. So I would definitely primarily recommend this for folks with pretty dry skin who struggle with finding powders that don't dehydrate their skin. If you have normal to oily skin, I would definitely not recommend this. Moving on to blush, I have been loving this little Gucci blush ever since I picked it up. I have this in shade 5 Rosy Beige, also sometimes known as Rosy Tan on some of the websites. But this is just such a pretty and unique shade. I found that the rest of the shades in this release were not that interesting to me, so I can't really vouch for those. There's nothing super special about this formula that you would need to run out and pay $50 for, but I think the VIB sale is a really good time to pick up splurges like this, where, you're definitely picking it up in part because it's Gucci and it's just so incredibly pretty, but it also is a very good formula. As you can see, this shade, Rosy Beige, is just a really nice nude but kind of cool toned mauvey shade. I really love these sorts of shades on days when I do more of a cool toned eye look. I find that it just goes really well, but also still makes me look a little bit more healthy and less dead. And as you can see, this blush applies in really nice sheer layers. So if you have a pretty deep skin tone, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this because I feel like it does take a while to build up. But if you have fair to medium skin and you like that control of being able to apply exactly as much blush as you want, this is a gorgeous and very easy to use formula because you won't really be able to go overboard with this. You can really slowly build things up. And this leaves a really beautiful satin sheen to the skin. So you can see it's definitely not flat matte, but also not really glowy. So now for the eyes, of course, I needed to talk about the new Pat McGrath Celestial Nirvana palette. I do have a dedicated video to this using all the shades, so definitely check that out if you want a more in-depth review. But I've been really enjoying this palette. It's been a lot of fun. I've been able to use this for colorful looks, but also more neutral looks. And so I would highly recommend this palette if you're someone who is interested in this particular type of color story. I'm not going to use a ton of shadows from this palette today because I already used all of them in my previous video, but a lot of you were interested in a mashup between this palette and a Pat McGrath palette. So today I whipped out Subliminal and I'm going to be using that with this navy shade to put together a look. But before going in with the eyeshadow, let's go in with some eye primer. I have here my ABH eye primer. This is also something that I would highly recommend from Sephora. This is by far my favorite eye primer. If you're someone who struggles with blending matte shadows on top of eye primers, if you find they often stick too much, and or if you're someone who feels like you really want your colorful shadows to pop and would like to get more of a white base for them, this is an excellent primer. I would say if you have a really deep skin tone and you're not looking for a really white base, I wouldn't recommend this because, as you can tell, it does come across pretty white on the skin. But what I really love about this is I can blend mattes on top of this with absolutely no problem, which for me is often a little bit of an issue. I do have some texture on my lids that can make it quite difficult for the mattes to fully blend very smoothly. And so typically I find that it's a lot easier for me to go in with concealer instead of eye primer, but this eye primer really changed the game for me. It's available on Sephora both in this mini size and also in a full size. This mini honestly is a ton of product because you only need a tiny bit each time, and so I also think this is a pretty affordable primer to check out. Also, before we go further, I realized I forgot to mention my overall favorite brow gel so far this year, which is the Merit Beauty one. I have this in shade Brown. Would highly, highly recommend this during the Sephora VIB sale. This is just such an amazing everyday brow pomade. It's so natural on the brows and you can basically build it up however you'd like and it never gets clumpy and never leaves any harshness on your brows. For me, with pretty much every other brow gel, I feel like I have to go in kind of carefully, otherwise there might be clumps or certain areas that are darker than others. But for this one, the formula is a little bit more liquid and sheer, and so you really don't have to worry about making mistakes. And for me, I just find it so easy on a daily basis just to quickly brush this through and not have to think about my brows anymore. So now going into Subliminal, I'm going to first go into this shade just to kind of set the base for this look. As you can tell, it is a very light shade that just adds a little bit of coolness. Now I'm going to go in with this navy shade and use this as the primary crease shade. I'm so excited to have this navy in my collection because I realized I don't actually have other navy shades, which is kind of surprising because you'd think this would be a more common color. And I do enjoy creating blue looks, and so I think this is really perfect for any sort of more cool toned look that you're doing. In general, I think this Celestial Nirvana palette is excellent for anyone who does really like having some colorful mattes. If you are a Pat McGrath connoisseur and you've been waiting for her to come out with some colorful mattes, to pair with her colorful shimmers, then this is an excellent palette to check out. So with that navy shade down, I'm gonna go in now to Blitz Blue and just put this all over the lid. Oh wow, look at that. Oh my gosh. It's been a while since I've used Blitz Blue. I kind of forgot how beautiful it is. As a side note, I normally don't recommend Pat McGrath products for the VIB sales because you can definitely get much bigger sales on her website. But for new releases like the Celestial Nirvana palette, unless you want to wait 6 months or longer, it's probably not going to go on sale on her website for a while. So I would recommend getting it for the Sephora VIB sale, especially if you're a Rouge member, because 20% off is pretty good on her new releases. So I'm going to go in now with a little bit of this topper shade and put this all over the lid. Ooh, look at that. And then just to complete things, I'm going to take a little bit of this shade and just put that along the center of the lid. So I went off camera to complete the eye look. So here we have the super, super blue shimmery look. Really nice if you want a monochromatic but still multi-dimensional eye look. So now I'm going to finish off this look with this Armani Lip Maestro. I have this in the shade 103. This is one of their minis. And this is a great segue actually into Sephora's holiday sets. So they always have a little mini set of Armani Lip Maestros. I got this from the cosmetic company store, but it was originally from Sephora. And I would highly recommend these for the Sephora VIB sale. Already it's a really great deal to get this set because you get 3 of them for a discounted price, but then with the 20% off, it's even better. And for this formula, a little goes a long way. So I think having the mini doesn't really detract from the experience. As you can see, these minis are still really beautiful. They have the nice hard plastic packaging, and so it's not going to feel really flimsy like some mini products. And I just absolutely love this formulation. It's a liquid lipstick and over time has a little bit more of a satin matte appearance, but it's actually very moussey and creamy on the lips. And so for me, I'm usually someone who only likes to wear lip glosses or super hydrating lipsticks. And so this by far is my favorite liquid lipstick. And so I would say if you're like me and your lips are super dry, but you'd like to try something that's a little bit more mattifying, then this is an excellent formula to try out. In terms of other holiday sets, I would also recommend the Mini Beauty Highlighter Wand set from Charlotte Tilbury. So this comes with Pink Gasm, which is a beautiful liquid blush for fair to medium tan skin tones and can also be used as a highlighter for deeper skin tones. And it also comes with a mini of their Spotlight highlighter, which is more of a champagne highlight. I think this is an excellent deal because each of these individually retails for like $45. I picked up the full size. And so to be able to get 2 of these for $32, even though they're in the mini form, I think is a really excellent deal. And this is one of Charlotte Tilbury's most popular products and it just looks so beautiful on the skin. Let me actually give you guys a quick swatch. So here you can see just how intense that is. The highlight is pretty strong, but you can still definitely use it as a blush. As you can see, it gives you that gorgeous lit from within effect. Another holiday set that looks really good is the Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm set. I have a full size of their shade Vanilla Beige, and this is basically one of my overall favorite lip balms at the moment. Let me actually show you guys a swatch. So this one is basically just a very nude everyday shade. You can see that the pigmentation on these is not going to be that high, but the formulation is just amazing. This is one of my favorite products to use for prepping the lips before lipstick. It's just so hydrating and nourishing, feels like a really thick lip mask. And also, even though I don't normally like fragrances or tastes in my products, this just has such a tasty vanilla caramel smell / taste to it that I actually really enjoy putting this on for that sensorial experience as well. So would definitely highly recommend that set. In addition, I think this is the first time they've done it, but they have this trio of LYS blushes, which I think is an excellent deal. So here's a full size of their shade confident. And this is a very nice blush for someone who wants to have that really natural cream effect, but still a lot of control. It's a little bit of a drier formulation than some cream blushes, and so you're not going to have any issues with patchiness or with the product slipping and sliding around your face. You can really be controlled in terms of how you apply it and where you apply it, but it just also blends out to be so beautiful and natural on the skin. The slight dryness means that it also is very long lasting for a cream blush. And usually these are already quite affordable at around $20 each, but I think to be able to get 3 shades in this for $20 is an amazing deal, especially because, as you can tell from the pigmentation level, this line is quite pigmented, so a tiny bit of product goes a long way. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to ever finish this full size, so would definitely recommend getting the minis. Next, we have the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Beautifying Lip Set. I would recommend this with the caveat that I think this is primarily good for folks with fair or light skin tones. So Pillow Talk is her most iconic lip shade, but personally I find that for my light medium with yellow undertone skin, it's not the most flattering shade ever, but I do really love her lip formulas. I love her Matte Trance, her lip pencils, and her Happy Kiss formulas. I haven't actually tried her gloss, but the fact that you get so many of these formulas in one, I think is a really great deal if you actually like the shade. I have a bunch of her Happy Kiss formulas, for instance. This one is in Enchanting Kiss, and you can see this is a really gorgeous, very hydrating formula. And so each of Charlotte's products tend to be very pricey on their own. So if you like Pillow Talk, I think this set is a good way to get a bunch of her formulas for a more affordable price. Next, we have these Hourglass palettes, and I would say that these are some of the best products to pick up during the VIB sale, especially if you're rouge. It's hard to find these for any more than 20% off, at least for the next 6 months or so. And I think this year's collection was especially a hit because of the animal packaging and having multiple releases for different skin tones. And I picked up 2 of these and have been loving both of them. If you have a skin tone similar to me, I would say that the Elephant palette is definitely the most usable of the 3. Basically, all of these shades look really beautiful on a light to medium skin tone. The highlight is a tad bit deep, but everything else shows up beautifully. You can use all of the shades here. The formula for this is impeccable. It's one of my favorite formulas for face powders. And even though these 2 look extremely similar in pan, there is a bit of a difference between them. And so on the whole, I think this is really worthwhile. I have a full video review showcasing all of the shades in both of these palettes, so definitely check that out if you're interested. The Tiger palette is technically more suited for deeper skin tones, but I find that it does work for my light medium skin tone as well. Basically, for my skin tone, I use this as a bronzer instead of as a finishing powder. And even though it's not my favorite formula for bronzer, it still does work. And then the blushes here are all just so beautiful on the skin, especially this shade over here is amazing. If Hourglass ever sells this in a single, definitely pick that up because this for me is the primary shade I use from this palette. These other 2, so technically this one's a highlight, but definitely works as a blush on me. And then this one as a blush is also really nice. I can use both of these as highlighters, even though this one looks a little bit deep in pan. And so I do find that on my skin tone, I'm able to make all of these work. And so if you like a little bit more pigmentation in your blush or highlights, then I think this one is a beautiful palette to check out. So next up, we have the must-have makeup set from Clinique. So you get a bunch of products in this set, including the Black Honey Lipstick and Cheek Pop. And so I have those 2 here. I absolutely love this Cheek Pop formula. It's amazing if you're someone who likes a more buildable blush formula that's really easy to use, blends out like a dream, and also leaves a nice satin finish. I actually think this formula in terms of the effect on the skin is quite similar to the Gucci blush. So if you want a more affordable alternative that gives you a very similar effect, then this is a great formulation to look into. I especially really love this shade. Black Honey on me is a really beautiful, just everyday shade that has a little bit of vibrancy to add a little bit of life to my cheeks, but is still sufficiently natural and similar to my natural flush to look very approachable as well. Black Honey as a lipstick, of course, needs no introduction. I got this in one of the Sephora sets last year, and you can see that it applies pretty sheer, but you can definitely build this up to a fuller opacity. And this shade is known for basically looking beautiful on everyone. It kind of gives you a more deepened, dimensional version of your own lip shade. And so this is, I think, a great set to pick up if you've been eyeing these products and don't want to pay full price for them. I think this by itself is already around $20 full price. And the fact that you get this plus a highlighter, plus this mini, plus some other products, I think there's an eyeliner and a mascara, is a really good deal overall. The only caveat I'll have with this Black Honey lipstick is I do think that because it doesn't have any fragrance to it, it does have a little bit of, the smell of the ingredients, which is not necessarily the most pleasant. So that's the only thing I don't like about this. But overall, I think this is a great set to check out. So next up, we have some products from Pat McGrath. So first we have the Mini Shine Trio Nude Venus. So this is all minis, but I have the full size of her Divinal lipstick in Nude Venus, so I can give you guys a swatch of this. So this is how the Nude Venus shade looks. It's just a beautiful, everyday, peachy, pinky shade. And this is not my favorite formula ever, her Divinals, but I think this is a really nice formula to get in a mini size. It gives a really nice shine to the lips, as you can see. Some of that's due to the hydration of the formula. Some of that's due to the little shimmer particles in the formula. But you get this also in her lip liner and in her lip gloss. And I absolutely love her lip gloss formula. It's one of my all-time favorite lip gloss formulas. And her lip liner formula is also one of my all-time favorites. And so if you like this sort of Nude Venus shade, I would highly recommend getting this mini with the discount. The other major holiday release from Pat McGrath this year was her cheek and highlight palettes, and I didn't end up picking up any of these because I have almost all of her blushes and highlights already. But if you are someone who doesn't have a lot of blushes from Pat McGrath or hasn't tried her highlighter formula, I would definitely recommend this set. It's very pricey at $62 for something that comes in cardboard packaging. For context, it's going to be very similar to the packaging of her holiday release last year. So there were 2 blushes and 1 highlight here. I think these retailed for $50. And so I think for $62 getting 2 additional blushes is actually a really good deal. I'm not sure how the pan sizes will compare, but her blushes also go a really long way. I mean, you can't even tell that I've used this even though I use this all the time. And so if you are looking for a really nice face palette and don't have a ton of her products already, I would highly recommend checking out this holiday set. The last Pat McGrath holiday item I would recommend for the sale is this duo of full-size versions of her lip glosses. So as I just mentioned, I absolutely love her lip gloss formula. This is what the full-size versions look like. I have like 10 of her lip glosses at this point. Basically, I love them all, would highly recommend. It's a really thick, juicy formula, and so if you're someone like me who has really dry lips and want a formula that's really going to hug them and nourish them throughout the day, this is excellent. It instantly plumps up your lips and makes them look really hydrated, even though there's no lip plumping effect or no tingling on the lips. $30 for 2 of them is a pretty good deal. You can sometimes get better deals on her website when she has some of those really big lip sales. But I would say if you're interested in these particular shades, Wicked Whisper and Faux Real, which both look like really great everyday shades, then I think being able to get this in the set for the discounted price is a really good way to try out her lip products or to just expand your lip gloss collection. Another lip gloss duo set I would recommend is the one from Tower 28. This is their Dreamy Gleamy Holiday. It comes with 2 of their shades, Coconut and Dream. I do actually own Coconut somewhere, but I wasn't able to find it, so I pulled out Almond instead. I have a bunch of these Tower 28 lip glosses. They're one of my all-time favorite formulas. Definitely by far my favorite clean beauty formula. This is also just a super hydrating formulation. This is really excellent for more just like a everyday, your lips but better kind of look. It's extremely hydrating, not sticky at all on the lips. This is by far the most slippery lip gloss that I've ever tried. So if you're someone who really doesn't like the stick, then this is an excellent formula. And getting 2 of these for $22 with an additional discount, I think is just a great deal. So that's it for all the holiday sets I would recommend, and I'll say that if you want more recommendations, I would highly recommend checking out my previous Sephora VIB sale recommendation videos. I still stand by all of those recommendations, but just to quickly mention some other products that didn't quite fit into either the try-on part or to the holiday set part. If you're interested in a Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow, I would recommend Pillow Talk Dreams. This is my favorite eyeshadow that I've tried from her, and I've tried quite a few. For context, I don't normally get along with Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadows that well, which I know is a very unpopular opinion, but I do like this one. So if you are looking for kind of a nice everyday eyeshadow palette that's still quite pigmented and shiny for glam looks, then this is an excellent one to try out. I do also have a dedicated video to this. If you're interested in Dior eyeshadows, I would highly recommend the Soft Cashmere palette. This is absolutely gorgeous on the lids. Very, very beautiful, sophisticated, cool-toned color story. The formulas are impeccable. It looks very simple in pan, but there's something very refined about the satin finish it gives on the lids. Also have a full video dedicated to this, so would highly recommend. And with every single Sephora VIB sale video, I always recommend Natasha Denona palettes because she never has really good sales on her website if you only want to pick up one of her palettes, especially one of her smaller palettes. And so now is the time to do so. And I would in particular recommend the Pastel, Bronze, Retro, and Glam Face palette. This Glam Face palette is actually one of my overall most used palettes of the entire year. I use this every time I go traveling, and this is also my go-to everyday palette. It has the perfect tones for my skin tone to create a very beautiful, natural glam look. For me, this is basically what I wished that Pillow Talk looked like. I don't actually ever use this blush over here, but for me, this palette is more than worth it just with this highlight and these eyeshadows. And so if you've been eyeing any of these Natasha Denona palettes, I think the Sephora VIB sale is definitely the best time to pick them up. So that's it in terms of all of my makeup recommendations for the Sephora VIB sale. I would love to know in the comments down below what you guys are interested in picking up for this sale. Let me know if you have any questions also. There's tons of other products that I've tried out this year that didn't make this list for various reasons, so happy to offer my opinions about any of those. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!